I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to share something really amazing with you. And it's actually one of our new Millions of Millionaires sponsors. So, to introduce this body graph chart software that we've been using that's been mind-blowing. So I want to welcome the amazing Taylor Dyson, who is my incredible operations manager. Welcome along, Taylor.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. This is actually something that we implemented when?
April.
Yeah.
And this year.
We were just trialing it out because they'd reached out to us in regards to sponsoring the podcast or something like that, wasn't it? And so it kind of wasn't even on our radar, and we tried it out and we had such low expectations. And then what happened?
Well, I remember sending you a message going, Emma, why are we not using this? Because I was mind blown. You know, we get a lot of requests for stuff like that. And, you know, there's new softwares all the time. And I clicked on it, like you said, with very low expectations. And I started looking through what they can do. And I got so excited. You know, the MG in me was like, oh my God, we have to use this. And I saw the potential of it. And it has delivered more than expected. It's really awesome.
Amazing. Now, before we get into the actual numbers, because I know numbers with Taylor is a thing in our business. She loves to share all the numbers. Let's just tell the listeners exactly who it's for and what it is.
Yeah, so it's a great tool for anyone who uses human design in their business. So if you're a human design reader, a human design coach, or just someone who uses human design in your business, if you incorporate it into whatever you do, it's a way for you to embed an actual human design chart tool into your website. So, you know, if you want someone to get their human design chart, you probably send them to an outside platform somewhere, go to this website, put in your details and get your chart, whatever that platform might be. There's a couple big ones. And what's cool about this is that it allows you to put that tool on your own website and it's yours. So when someone comes and, puts their information into your website, they get their chart, and then you can hook it up to your email list, to your newsletter. You can have it linked to your own content. You can customize the reports afterwards that they get, so it's your own descriptions of what, this type is or this profile. So that's kind of what it is.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's so cool because I actually remember when Jenni Zoe, because it must be the same software that Jenni Zoe used and before anyone else. Yeah, right. And I was always like, wow, her chart looks so beautiful and it's on her website. That's so cool. So yeah, when we started using it, I was like, this is beautiful. I'm really excited that we can do it. But let's talk hard numbers. Like we have had some serious success with this, just adding this to our business. So tell everyone a little bit about the growth that we've experienced through using this.
Yeah. So since implementing it into our website in April, there have been over 4,000 people that have downloaded their chart through the website. And that's unique. That's not, someone who does it twice, because a lot of people, they'll go back because they won't download the PDF or something, or they lost it or misplaced it. That's unique. Chart downloads. So it's even more for people doing it twice. And it's been really amazing. It's more than tripled the size of the email list. And, you can set up sequences afterwards for people to, give them more information and keep everything in-house.
Yeah. And because one of the really big things for us is obviously human design made simple. So it gives us the opportunity to give our way of teaching human design directly to the people who want it. And I love that. I love that every single person that wants to get their chart, that downloads it, we can then support them on their journey straight away, which is, of course, what you set up, because you're amazing, to make sure that not only do they get their chart, but they also get this support, free content support that helps them as they're, new to human design and on their journey. So beautiful. So how do people access this? What's it called? And I know that there's a benefit for listeners of the podcast.
Yes. So you can go to the link in the show notes, or you can go to bodygraphchart.com. And they have been kind enough to give the listeners of the Human Design Podcast a 50% off discount for 12 months, which is huge because it's already inexpensive to begin with. And then the 50% discount is going to put it at $25 a month. That's in US dollars. So wherever you are in the world, it'll be, a little bit different, but 50% off for 12 months. And the code is Human Design Podcast. And we'll put that in the show notes too for everyone. And one of the other things I want to say that's really cool about this chart tool is that it's 100% customizable, and it actually gives Chiron and the 4 arrows, which is what a lot of chart tools don't do that. So that's one thing that a lot of people are drawn to when they go to get our chart from our website is, I can get the arrows because of it, or my Chiron gates.
I love that. It's so cool. So check out the show notes, people. Get on it, because really it is such a powerful and, as Taylor says, inexpensive tool. Like, it paid for itself in the first 2 days, I seem to remember, or first day, I seem to remember. So it's so valuable, and it gives you the opportunity to really build your brand and your communication with your clients. So thank you. Go check it out. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of course, the Human Design Podcast. And we are doing the transits. It's Transits Day. So welcome, Jenni Crowther.
Hi, Emma. Hi, Transit team.
I'm super excited to be here. I want to say a special thank you to both you and Jess Babaco, who stood in while I was away walking the Camino. So thank you for that. Really appreciate you.
We had a great time. We had a lovely time.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we've had I know you said that you've had lots of feedback, and we've had lots of feedback. It was really, really, really cool. And it's always nice to, shake it up a little bit and try something new, bring some new energy to things. But today it's you and me again. We're back. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking all about first we're going to review. We're going to review July. Yeah, sorry, I missed a month there. We're going to review July, and then we're going to look at the transits for August. Does that sound good?
That's the plan.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you drive. Why don't you take us in review of July? I mean, I've got plenty to say about July, but let's hear it from you first.
I'll talk about the general themes that I'm seeing coming up in relation to the transits, and then we can kind of see if that fits in with your experience, your feedback. I mean, the most obvious thing one of the most obvious things I noticed this month was the same conversation kept coming up. And once something comes up 3 to 4 times, I'm like, now then, what is this? So I kept having conversations with people where I would be drawn to ask them the question, what really matters? Like, what is the deepest mattering to you? It's not what really matters existentially for all of us. We can't answer that question, but what is the thing for you that, if when all's said and done, that is the thing that if there's this beautiful Rumi poem, if you have not done this one thing with your life, you will have done nothing. Even if you did 100,000 other things, this is the one thing. So I've had that conversation a lot with people about how distracted we can get with all kinds of stuff, and yet how we need to keep bringing it back to this anchor, and this anchor has to be a heartfelt, honest, deep answer to keep coming back to. So I've kept asking that question over and over again. And when I think about South Node and Gate 50, this values gate that is really deep in the body graph, it's part of the defense circuitry. I think that is part of it. I think this, this question of what do we value above all? What is the thing for us that is of most value? And then Pluto, still in Gate 60, this deep truth and this individual limitations. Like, limitations stop us running around trying to chase 10 dreams at once. Pick one, pick the one that matters. So I've had a lot of those conversations with people. A personal example, something that I build my life around is being in natural, energetic environment as much as possible, by which I mean being out of the field of EMF that's created by Wi-Fi and 4G. I personally think that's extremely damaging to my subtle nervous system, and I don't want to be soaked in it every day. So that's one of my core values as a human, which leads me to have to make quite inconvenient choices. Like, I have to carry around a 30-meter Ethernet cable with me everywhere I go, and all kinds of adapters. I have to have awkward conversations with people to see if they'll switch their Wi-Fi off. You know, I have to sleep in either a little wooden hut at the bottom of the garden or in my camper van, because there's Wi-Fi. Even if we turn it off in our house, it comes through the walls of the next door houses. So one of my core values is actually pretty inconvenient in the world, but it's so deep in me, and it matters to me so much that I would rather sleep in a little wooden hut in the middle of winter when it's snowing outside and minus I don't know what, than in the house being soaked by Wi-Fi. So once you've identified your one of your core values, it may be that it's inconvenient and slightly, requires some change, but in what it leads to in me is a sense of following my own convictions and doing what's right for me. And if I compromised this thing that's really important to me for the sake of convenience, there's something that's not going to sit right with me. I'm going to lose my inner peace. I'm going to feel like I'm abandoning part of myself or betraying a part of myself. So that's kind of what I think the South Node in Gate 50 is percolating within us. This, what is it that's going to bring you peace of mind, because it matters to you.
Oh my God, I love that. And just listening to you and coming off the back of the Camino, I'm like, yeah, like I definitely, and it's going to come as no surprise for anyone who knows my design, like the thing that I really value, I think the thing that I want to go to the next level with is family, unconditional love, like real deep unconditional love and family. And that's definitely something that I even think about the team, as I come back from the Camino and I'm thinking about my team that shares this mission with me, that I want to come back and I want to be more connected with them. I want to, have that deeper relationship, obviously deeper relationship with the people that I love. And I love that question. I love that question of like, what really matters to you? Like what really, really matters to you? And the people that I surround myself with, the unconditional love, not only to be able to give it, but to be able to receive it. And I've definitely been, playing with this. And, I spoke to Elizabeth today and she's like, how is the business different? And that's what I said to her, like, I'm building deeper connections with the people that I work with within the business and with my family, obviously with Coop, because we've just walked the Camino. We are so close. So if it's even possible, so much closer than we were before we left, but it's also rubbing off on every other relationship that I have. So I love that. And I feel very much like it's been a huge thing for me, because when I sit back and look at what that means for my mission and my purpose, it's that I want to have the capacity to hold that depth of love for everybody, not just my team, not just my HDX community, not just my listeners, but every single human that I come in contact in any which way. That would really be the piece for me, the thing that matters most, the thing that if I didn't have it, I don't do regrets, but I would regret if I didn't give and receive like real unconditional love. And I get that it can't be 24/7. I totally get that. That would be the thing. That would be the thing that would make my life not like shit to go back and do it again.
Yeah, there's when in the Gene Keys entry on the 50, Richard Rudd talks about he quotes Carl Jung actually, and the quote is, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. And I think we're having a bit of a reckoning at the moment, like what would be unlived if if you got to the end of your life and you had some moment of reflection, what would you feel, like you say, regret about if you hadn't really done your best to live it? And it's not like we necessarily are going to perfect it, but at least we try,
Yeah.
So the long and short of it is we're being asked to live our lives and look deeply at what it is that we're actually, 50 is all about historical continuity and traditional values that serve and enrich the present and the future, but not all traditional values are beneficial. There can be traditional values in historical lineages that are extremely damaging and suppressing. So what if the historical value that you've inherited is to suppress your own desires and live a life that doesn't have meaning for you? So we've got to be not that we have a choice. The South Node is percolating us in this stew of what really matters, because what's on the other side of the 30 is the gate 3, which is this chaos of mutative new beginnings, which we're all contending with.
Well, I feel like it's so interesting that you say that as well, because I've, conversations that I've had, one of the things I've heard a few people say, and I'm even considering it myself, is people keep saying, I'm just cutting all my hair off,
Mm-hmm.
And so often when we cut all our hair off, and I'm not going to cut all of my hair off, but like I'm definitely feeling this, there's this new identity birthing inside of us, this new version of us. So I'm not at all surprised that the gate 3 is, I can see it in everyday life. I can see people navigating through change and getting to that point where, my language is we're focusing on this new identity. We're focusing on this new person. So it's great to know that we have the energy there to support us through it, and to know that when we are experiencing the chaos, just to know that it's just because it's the beginning. It's that it's a new birth. It's we're being sort of pushed out into this new identity or this new world, and the path will show itself. But just understand there's chaos.
Well, the channel 360 has been on for a month. We've got another month. It's on all the way through August. We had it on in, when was it, May? Yeah, it was on in May because Jupiter was in 3. So this channel of mutation has been on. Like, it's the most significant transit of the year, really.
Wow.
So we're all being mutated in all kinds of ways. Little chrysalises.
Yeah. I love it. Well, change can be bumpy, so hold on, people.
Yeah,
and just remember, it's going to be better. Whatever comes, it's going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this ever-changing evolutionary soup of information, so off we go again.
Yeah,
nothing stays.
We're used to this now, right? Long. Surely, we're used to this by now.
Surely we've all understood that is the deal down here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the global channels that's been on in July. I mean, my observation of it is it's getting pretty real for people out there that, this mutative channel, it can mutate things in and out of existence. It's like, it can be real, like not just a little bit of a change here or there, but like big changes, people coming and going, house moves, job changes, like big changes, real stuff. So yeah, just to acknowledge that this is part of the global frequency at the moment, the 360 channel, which is where the design crystal comes in and goes out again. So big change. So I'm
feeling it far out. I've been punched in the face with it, to be honest, over the last few times, but the last couple of months, but it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, people are having to make some kind of drastic on the fly changes because something else has changed and it's impacted, this domino effect. So there's a lot of that going on at the moment. The slightly milder global channels that we had on in July, between the 13th and the 18th of July, we had the Earth in Gate 61 and the Jupiter in 24, which is activating the channel of awareness between the head and the Ajna in the individual circuit. I have 61 hanging, and Jupiter's 24 transit is still on, I think. So that's been a longer transit for me or anyone else who's got 61 hanging in the head. And for me, that's it. That's all I've got up there, just that one hanging gate. And so I've had there's been a lot of pondering going on up there. And for those listening with defined heads and ajnas, you'll be like, yeah, and that's par for the course. And I'm like, who is up there? It's like having, you've lived in a flat with no upstairs neighbours for years, and all of a sudden someone's moved in and is clattering around up there making all kinds of noise. I'm like,
my God, I love it.
Like the activity in my mind, just pondering, asking itself questions, generating answers. I'm like, who are you talking to up there? So that's been really interesting for me, because I don't experience mental definition that often. Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but I'd quite like my peace and quiet back.
I love it. She wants the peace and quiet back. There's those of us that have worked for many, many years to experience some peace and quiet. And look at you, like, yeah, can someone just switch off the noise? Like, I'm used to this peace. I've worked hard for this. I've worked hard for this peace of mind.
Yeah. I have. You know how much time I spend on silent meditation retreat. I have worked really hard for the peace and quiet. So when the neighbours move in, I'm like, dude, shut up.
Yeah. It's funny you mention it. There's, it's not funny, not funny. Just definitely in that place at the moment as well. And he's got the 61. It's actually his personality son. So I reckon he would probably resonate with what you're saying. Yeah, this Jupiter transit, it moves tomorrow, so we're good. Like, tell him it's all right. It's chill vibes from tomorrow. Yeah, great. I'll let him know. And then where we are right now while we're recording, we have your channel on, the 3740. We've got Mars in gate 40 and Saturn in gate 37 from the 20th to the 28th of July. And quite often I feel a transit like right near the end of it, like it almost like it percolates, and then it shows itself at the end. But this one hit me like within a day or two, and it hit me like a truck. And it was the strangest experience, because it was like I was feeling the polarities of the channel simultaneously. So I had this tremendous heavy aloneness, like this feeling of I just want to be alone, but then simultaneously I couldn't stand it, because I was like, where are all my people? And so I was like in this weird place of I want to be around people, but I really don't want to be around people. Oh my God, welcome to my emotional low. Like, I used to live in that place before I worked this shit out. Like, I get you, sister. I know how that feels. Oh my God, it's hilarious. Yeah. I used to literally, like years ago, I used to be like, how can I feel lonely and, want to be alone all at the same time? Thank you, human design. That answered that question. That is the 3740 right there. Wow. Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I think that it feels slightly misnamed, the channel of community, because that implies that you want to be around a lot of people. But everyone I spoke to actually someone on the Cross of Planning 37 Sun yesterday, and she was like, I just want to be alone. And my observation is that actually the aloneness is perhaps stronger. I mean, maybe you have seasons with it, like maybe you have a real strong season of aloneness and a real strong, like you say, sounds like you're moving into a season of the family. So yeah, exactly. I would say that. I would also say that, it also depends on your conditioning and how you've built, your identity and your mindset. And I definitely use the loneliness as a safety mechanism. So because I felt, safe on my own and alone and shutting myself internally, it's in my design earth. So, my personality earth. So there's this part of me that's like, it actually makes me feel grounded, even though, sometimes it's really unresourceful. So I think that I just learnt to use it as a way that I could stay safe, that my ego would keep me safe. And I think that a lot of this, this shift, this Camino, I'm definitely shifting out of that place where my line 5, I just didn't realize how drawn down on that energy had been my entire life. Like even the last few years where I've really cleaned up a lot of my conditioning, the Camino was the first time I've ever spent an extended period of time with a bunch of people that don't need me to be their hero. It's the first time. So it's no surprise that I would then decide that actually, fuck, I want this. I want more of this. I want more of this family. I want more of this energy around me. I want, I loved it. I thought it was so beautiful and liberating, but it's really taken me all this time to get to that point where my line 5 isn't almost standing in the way of really leaning into that 37, to really feeling that unconditional love and that connection and that real enjoyment of being around people all the time. Like I just have never enjoyed it like I did on the Camino. And I just, I also was surrounded by, Taylor's a line 5 as well. So there was a lot of that energy, and we're so conscious of that energy in each other, and we're both adults and we both know that the other one can take care of themselves. So we're there as in, fully supported adults taking responsibility for their stuff. Like it was a different world. It was just amazing. So I can see how the 37-40 is that it's going to, because it is a real polarity energy. I mean, it is the polarity because they're programming partners, but yeah. I think for me personally, I've just gone to a whole nother level with my 37.
That's gorgeous.
I'm excited.
Amazing, isn't it? How deeper and deeper and round we go with this, with our design. It's incredible.
Mind blowing. I think that's what's so beautiful about it, because like when I first just like went into my design and the 37 and my personality sun's meant to be this, and it's all about community, I was like, yeah, bullshit. It just doesn't feel true. And it's never felt truer than post Camino. So I'm like, I love this stuff. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives us, human design, our body graph just gives us this extraordinary map, this framework, this lens to look at the world through and be able to name it and point to it and see it and then experience it unfolding and maturing. And it's so gorgeous. Like I've noticed this month, I'm doing some training and we're doing a lot of presentation as part of the training. And every time I present, the feedback I get is, wow, Jenni, your tone is so gentle. And it's like, I'm a 57 sun, but a 51 in my earth. And I've been in that shock. And also it's in my nodes, both nodes, because I'm born at the solar eclipse on a new moon. So it's like it's all exactly lined up. And so I've been sitting in the 51, this gate of shock and like egoic competition for the first 42 years of my life. And now that I'm in post Uranus opposition and I'm really easing into this 57, the tone of my voice has changed. And this feedback, wow, your tone is so gentle. I'm like, oh my God, that is new information.
Yeah. And I love that, like what I think, this is why I think human design is so powerful, is because no one's telling us who we are. Like no one's telling us. It's like, here's the blueprint, here's the map. And yes, there's a bunch of us out here sharing all of the knowledge and that sort of thing. But if you're listening to people like us, like we're not telling you who you are. We're telling you, run the experiment. What does it mean for you? What are these energies? How do they show up for you? And it means like I would never have focused on community or this sort of energy if I didn't have that blueprint. Yet when I listen to the gene keys, I'm like, wow, that deeply resonates with me. But there's layer upon layer upon layer that needed to be worked through. And I think that's one of the things I just adore about human design and the gene keys is no one's telling us who we are. We get to go on this journey and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And we get to work with these beautiful energies that are innately ours. And the power's in our hands.
Yeah, it's so great. I just love watching it unfold. My final observation for July, which, I mean, I went on back and forth about whether I even wanted to talk about this, but I know what you'll say. Go on, do it.
Go on, do it.
Which is there it is. Which was one thing I have been unable to avoid seeing the collective talk about is AI, the topic of AI.
Oh yeah.
And I've read opinion pieces on this, sweet, it's going to destroy us, it's going to save us, catastrophizing, extreme thinking, blah, blah, all this stuff. But then you step back and you look at it through the human design perspective. And for those of you maybe newer to human design and really only know the body graph and the analysis of that, you might not be aware of the kind of cosmological, sociological kind of predictions or prophecies that came through also as part of the information, the knowledge that was given to Ra. But the core, one of the core concepts of human design is that we now, us listening to this, are part of an evolutionary process from a 7-centered being whose main awareness center was the ajna center and mental decision making, and that kind of being the boss, into a 9-centered being, which will evolve. We're not quite there yet, but will evolve into solar plexus awareness. So here we sit in what was called Homo sapiens intransitus as a form, where we're a series of bridge generations between 7-centeredness and leftness in human design terminology, which means strategic, focused thinking, into 9-centered solar plexus awareness beings, which we can't even imagine what that's going to be like because it's not us and we don't have any examples of it yet. So this core concept, when I look at something like AI, and 7-centered beings were around for 85,000 years plus, that's quite a long time to evolve. The ajna, mental decision-making, as a way of being. If we're now then on this evolutionary shift into a different type of awareness being the boss, what I'm looking at when I see something like AI is almost like the peak or the culmination of ajna, mental awareness. The fact that we've created this disembodied ajna, basically. Yeah. It's an answer machine that doesn't have a body. And I think God, I don't know what's going to happen. God only knows what's going to happen. But I think as we move into this era where artificial intelligence is more part of our lives, we have to perhaps remember that it's called artificial intelligence, perhaps for a reason. As in, what would make it why is it called that? Why is it called artificial intelligence? Well, because it's not got a body. As in, when we think, if we're calling real intelligence embodied intelligence, which is the intelligence of humans and other beings on the planet, we have emotional intelligence, we have embodied kinesthetic intelligence, we have biological intelligence, and we're not just a disembodied ajna center. There's all kinds of other consequences of living in a fragile, vulnerable bioorganism that is inherently linked to our own intelligence, our feeling of being intelligent at many levels, and also being connected to the intelligence of the planet and all the beings on it. So I just feel like when we make decisions as bioforms, using our ajna center that is intimately linked to all other types of intelligence, we understand the consequences because we live in these fragile bioforms that are finite, and that affects our decision making. Even if the mental decision plane, the ajna, which is, able to conceptualize past and future and lives in this vast time space, the body lives in real time, moment by moment. And because those two are anchored together and deeply connected, the decisions that are made by our own ajna are also taking into account, hopefully, the consequences of the body and the bioform. And the deep empathy we have for other beings who are also in fragile bioforms. So, my main concern is that we hand over a lot of our decision making to something that doesn't have the same consequences as we do when it's not biologically linked. But we'll see. I'm not one to catastrophize.
No, and I think like the whole AI thing, it's funny, isn't it? Like, it's that dance between how much do I educate myself, and I was listening to oh my God, I can't remember his name. You'll know his name from Diary of a CEO podcast. What's his name? English guy. Anyway, he had the guy from Google, and it was like, this is the most important podcast you're ever going to listen to. And I started listening to it, and I'm like, oh God, the whole world's going to blow up in 2 months. Yep, I'm not interested. I'm out. And then, there's been other people that I've been listening to in regards to AI that they're not catastrophizing. They are like, there is real potential here for this to be hugely supportive. And it actually sounds more like, the future. It sounds more like the new paradigm. Like, one of the people that I follow a lot at the moment, and I watched his new documentary, Dr. Stephen Greer. And his new documentary is the Lost Century and how to reclaim it. And it's fascinating. And it's about the technology that we have on the planet right now, but we don't have access to, and how we actually have solutions to free energy and all of these things, but we are not given access. We're not being given access to it. And it's his mission to get that information out. And when he talks about AI and the way this future technology is going to be, he talks about freedom and abundance and compassion and kindness and, like getting rid of debt, getting rid of hunger, there will be no poverty. And the way he talks about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in, mate. What do you need me to do? Like I am all over it. So I think for me personally, something you said really like intuitively, my sacral was like ping, was, when you said like, is this just the pinnacle? Is this the climax almost to, as we are exiting this Ajna dominant time? And obviously the exit is not a month in time. It's not even a year. It's not even a decade. It's a period of time that we're going to go through. But I feel like that there's a lot to be said that we're going down a road, and a lot of historians would have us believe that we've been here before. That we've been here before with Atlantis, and there's plenty of evidence to show that we've been here before, and that we did let AI dominate, and that this time we're not going to make those choices. So for me personally, like it's something that I try to educate myself in a really broad way, but not letting myself go too deep down any one rabbit hole, because at the end of the day, we live in a quantum reality. And what we focus on is what we're creating. So the higher we raise our consciousness, the more people we can influence. And if we're focusing on the Dr. Stephen Greers of the world and the work that they're doing in the world, and believing, putting our powerhouse, Ajna, behind those belief systems, because that's really all they are, because we live in the right now, then for me, I'm like, well, that's the way to go. That's, for me, my opinion, that's what we need to be focusing on. But I think that, I think you're right. I think that we're also seeing, the death throes of things, and potentially the negative side, the unresourceful side, the inter-humankind side of AI is hopefully a death throw. That's what I am going to choose to believe, that there will be AI, but it's not going to be this doom and gloom. And if it is, well, it is, and we'll deal with it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But we have to understand how powerful we are and where we're putting our attention. So it's that, as I said, it's that constant balance between educating yourself and then making an individual choice of where you're going to focus your energy and what you're going to support.
I mean, it may also be that we're just getting the opportunity, the concept of AI and the potentials for it in the worst sense, and maybe just giving us all a really good physical shake-up to feel our fear of dying.
Yeah.
And to feel our potential grief about that, and just purify it, maybe
in case we didn't get enough of it in COVID, right?
Sure. We didn't. I don't think we did. I don't think people fully felt it, whereas the concept of the eradication of humans on this plane, maybe that's what we need right now to feel through our feelings about that. And having felt through our feelings about that, maybe that is part of the purification of the solar plexus.
Maybe.
We don't know, Emma. We're going to have to look back in hindsight.
Exactly. And we
at least the disembodied AI versions of us will in 700 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You make me think of Arnie. I'm watching Arnold on Netflix at the moment.
I watched that this week as well.
Oh my God, it's fantastic. Like, whether love or hate him, it's a fascinating documentary. It really is. Anyway.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been gabbing on for ages about July, but should we have a little look forward? So first up, I wanted to do a little Wheel of the Year reminder. I did this last month on the podcast, and I'm going to read you a little listener comment. Hi, Jenni. I just wanted to reach out and say that I listened to your latest transit podcast episode, and it was the first time that I've ever downloaded the wheels. I've been listening for about a year now. I just wanted to say thank you for the detailed time and effort you put into making them and gifting them to us. As someone who feels totally new to all of this, I feel capable and able to follow along while listening and looking at them. I also found the podcast even more interesting as a consequence. So, amazing. if you want to join this happy, satisfied listener, you can go to my website, jennicrowther.co.uk, and go to the podcast page. And there are 2 wheels of the year on there that are a visual map of what we're talking about when we're talking about the transits and the mandala and the way that, the planets move through the celestial sphere. So if you want to go and pause the podcast and go and download those, print them out and come back and join us.
Love it. Go do it. Go check it out.
So if you have the wheels and you're looking at them, we're looking at the moment at August, which is the bottom right-hand side of the wheel, down towards the southwest corner. So in terms of the sun movement in August, it is, of course, moving through the zodiac signs of Leo and Virgo on this bottom right section. In human design language, we're talking about the movement between quarter 2 and 3. So this is keynoted, quarter 3 is keynoted purpose fulfilled through relationships or purpose fulfilled through bonding. So Q2 is all about purpose fulfilled through form. You'll see in there that it's got all the throat gates, and this is bringing things out of the purely conceptual realm that we're working in mostly in Q1 into making stuff happen. So there's a big kind of action, manifestation, communication, form, bringing things out of mental realm into form and concretizing them, whether that's just, having a thought and writing it down or actually setting the wheels in motion. That's a big theme that we go through in Q2. And now as we move into Q3, the focus shifts, if you like, the overall focus of this quarter shifts into our relationships. Interesting what you were just talking about, how
exactly.
the focus is shifting.
I'm feeling that.
Into your relationships.
Yeah.
And who we are intimate with. So what makes it the quarter of bonding is the fact that the gate 59 and the gate 6, the sun goes through both of those gates in the first part of the quarter 3. So that it creates the channel of mating, although it's not at the same time, so it doesn't necessarily literally create it, but the 2 gates from the channel of mating that connect our life force to our intimate relationships are in there. So when we're looking at the beauty of if you're now looking at the wheels, and perhaps for the first time, or maybe you've never really considered the mathematical symmetry and the beauty of them, one of the first things we can notice is that the first half of each quarter begins with a gate of the Sphinx, by which I mean one of the 4 directional gates in the incarnation cross of the Sphinx, all of which are in the G center. And then the second half of each quarter begins with a love gate, by which I mean one of the 4 gates of the cross of the vessel of love, which are also in the G center. So when we're looking at the mandala, we're looking at this circle that's divided into 8 pieces, and each one of these 8 pieces begins with a gate in the G center. So at the beginning of the quarter, we've got a Sphinx gate, and this is giving us directionality rather than love. It's giving us the direction for the next 6 weeks, or the overall theme for the next 6 weeks. So we're moving into gate 7. You'll see that there's a gate 33, which is the very last one of the throat gates, the gate of retreat. So it's like we've spoken, we've done, we've said all the things, we've manifested whatever it is we were manifesting, we've brought all this stuff into the world, and now we need to just chill for a bit and retreat and take time, take stock before we move on. And where are we moving? We're moving into gate 7. So the sun will be moving into that gate from the 6th to the 11th of August. And this then is, like I say, setting this tone for the next 6 weeks. So 7 we can explore. It's a collective logical future gate. In the I Ching, it's called the army, and in human design, the role of the self. And it's concerning how we're mobilizing ourselves, organizing ourselves, and preparing ourselves for where we're going. A quote from the Ravi Ching on gate 7: "It is a rule of all forms that only logic, only the tested and established patterns can be followed with any certainty." So, we've talked a lot already about this kind of the chaos and the uncertainty and the mutation and what happens when, suddenly life throws some curveballs your way. The theme for the sort of, as we go into August and early September, is just regrouping and using our logical capacities and having the support of this energy to, instead of just running around with all our abstract circuitry or our tribal circuitry or deep emotions, this is saying, no, come on, we all have the capacity for logic, and we know that we can trust it. We've tried it over and over again. We know in our lives that this structure works for us, or this approach works for us. So the invitation at the beginning of this this quarter is that really. It's to just take a breather. You've had your sun in 33, you've had a week of taking a breather, and then, which is the very beginning of August, and then from the 6th, it's like, all right, let's make a plan. Gather the troops. What are we doing?
I love that. And it's so fascinating just hearing it, because there's so many things going on for me. I'm like, wow, that's really good to know that coming up soon, it's going to be like, what's the plan? I love that. And I know even business wise, like we're working with this incredible human, and obviously we took some time out and we're starting again on the 1st of August. So I'm like, wow, that's amazing. We're literally, building all of those things. So
you've got like 5 days in the retreat energy where you're just reflecting and sharing your stories and listening to each other. And then from the 6th, it'll be like, right, come on, what's the plan?
Ready.
So I mentioned 59 and 6, the gate of sexuality and the gate of conflict or friction. This design focused on reproduction or the baby making, fertile energy in the chart. And I mean, it's a biological imperative for humans, to reproduce. It's also, this incredible fertile creative ground, which, you might enter into an intimate connection with someone as a business partnership or as a friendship. It doesn't necessarily need to be about physically reproducing, but it is about fertility and understanding what is fertile and who is fertile for us. What you were saying about your people and getting really clear about that. It's like, who is going to help me create? Where is that chemistry correct? Evolutionarily speaking, any traits that are less required by evolution are going to be less fertile. So when we look at the wheel, you're looking at the movement from 7, and then we move into this sort of into the 29, and then into the 59, and then eventually into the 6th. So if 59, this gate that knows what's fertile, is always preceded by gate 29, the sacral commitment gate, or the gate of saying yes. So the way I interpret this is you've got to be really sensitized to what the sacral is saying yes to, what the sacral is committing to, so that it will commit to the fertile ground, commit to the right thing, commit to the thing that is correct for you, so that there is this relational fertility in whoever it is that you're, this is the purpose fulfilled through bonding and relationships. So whoever it is that you're committing to, or whatever you're committing to, there is a sense of sacral fertility, because both of these gates are basically, the power in them is sacral response. So for the generators out there, it's like a real indication that your sacral response will guide you to the most fertile ground, even if the mind has no idea what's going on.
Oh my God, I love that. The 59 is one of my bridge gates. I love that. That's exciting. And I feel like it's such an important time. I feel like so many people who are, stepping into this new identity in my world, like there is so much, relational change. So I'm already seeing it. I'm already seeing people and this experience move towards this experience. It's exciting.
It's fascinating that you say that, Emma. My next line was, you may feel like this is already happening because Mars, Mercury, and Venus are all moving slightly ahead of the sun at the moment. So they're all already in this core of the wheel. So all of the personal planets are already there.
Wow. Yep. Tick. Yes. Feeling it already.
Already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're at this time, sort of, when did it start? Let me just check my ephemeris. Mars went into 29 on the 1st of July. Venus joined it in there on the 6th of July. Yeah, so Mercury will be into 29 on the 25th of July. When's that, today? Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. So we've got this 29 party. Jess and I talked about it at length last time. We talked about allowing the body to say yes, because 26 points at gate 46, which is the love of the body and love of being in an embodied form. And a lot of us carry a lot of shame around, or fear around, our bodies. And so, the invitation from last month was to really sort of get into this, because Venus is retrograde in 29. So this ability to connect to our body's own yeses, whatever they may be, and all the emotionality that comes up around, what am I actually attracted to? What does my body actually, where's the fertile ground for me?
Oh my God, I love that. That is so cool. And it's interesting because a lot of, the Camino stuff for me was about the body. It was really like I've got a whole new level of love and appreciation and acceptance for my 48-year-old postmenopausal body. So I can totally resonate with that. Like I've come back and been like, wow, I love you more than ever. This is great. So I can really, really resonate with that. I feel like that's been a big theme.
I mean, and it's got juice, like whether or not you have a defined sacral in your birth body graph, everyone has a defined sacral at the moment. The channel 360 is on from the root to the sacral. So as all of these personal planets are activating gate 29, everyone's sacral is defined right now. Also, everyone's emotional center is defined because the 4037 is on right now. So,
it's emotional, people. It's emotional.
It's emotional. And it's sacral, and it's fertile and it's sensual. So there's just a lot of body, deep body activations at the moment in the transits.
Love that.
So an invitation to lean into that that sense of what is my body actually saying yes to, because knowing that the next gate along is 59 and it's leading into what is fertile for us, where the fertile ground is, and who, most importantly, who are the fertile relationships.
Yep, I'm on it.
So I mentioned Venus being retrograde there. She's already retrograde in the gate of 29. And I'm talking about the sun moving forward through gates 33, 7, 4, and into 29 during August. That's where the sun's going. But Venus is in 29 right now, so she's going to go backwards. So the sun and the earth the sun and Venus are going to pass each other in the sky. They're going to pass in gate 4 on the 12th, between the 12th and the 15th of August. Venus and the sun will be passing each other. So as they go past each other on the 13th of August, we get what we call a cazimi, which is Venus in the heart of the sun. Any planet that goes into the heart of the sun, from our perspective here on Earth, is what we call a cazimi. So we've got this moment of Venus and the sun together on the 13th of August in gate 4. We've also got, at the same time in the sky, Mars and Mercury on their little journey meeting in gate 47. So if you're looking at human design body graph, you're seeing 4 and 47 are in the ajna, pointing up at the head center. And these are partner gates, if you like. They're not programming partners, but they have a relationship. The 4 is this collective logical circuitry, and the 47 is this collective abstract circuitry. And they're both the answer machines for the questions that come out of the head center. So there's a really interesting symmetry with the sun and Venus in the logical circuitry, Mars and Mercury in the abstract circuitry. And again, all mental definition. So Venus and the sun are starting to formalize logical theories for future testing so that we can start to assuage mental doubt. And then Mercury and Mars in 47 are starting to realize why something might have happened in the past, to assuage mental confusion. So we've got this really interesting kind of relationship between the two of them. We've also got Mercury starting to retrograde on the 21st of August. But in all of August leading up to that, it will be slowing down in its pre-retrograde shadow, and that will be in gate 64 since the 7th of August and 47 since the 13th of August. So that will bring, the more energy to the channel of abstraction, the 64 being the head gate. So, I mean, what does all that mean? Be aware there's a lot more mental activity than usual going on, and it's all the personal planets. So personal mental activity is getting a fair amount of attention in a planetary sense.
So the way overthinking things, people overthinking
basically potentially overthinking. Yeah. What we need to understand with mental definition is it has its own process, in the same way that the sacral has its own response that you don't decide. The sacral responds to what the sacral responds to. It's not a mental decision, it's a physical thing. The same goes for the head and ajna. Just because it's mental, it doesn't mean that you're deciding what to think about. It's got a process, it's doing its thing. So what your mental landscape looks like will be individual, but it may not be your choice. And so how you say may not, I mean, human design would say, no, it definitely isn't your choice, because it's being stimulated and it's doing its thing. It's interesting to me that this is Mercury, which is planet of communication and technology, in the abstract gates, the mental confusion gates, the gates of before completion and oppression in the I Ching. That's what they're called. So if you think about those two words, oppression, before completion, confusion, like that's what it feels like. That's what this channel feels like. So for those of us that don't have that definition and much activity in there, which I do not, I'm not used to that. I'm not used to my mind feeling oppressed by these confused questions trying to make sense of the past. But it may be that I start to experience more of that as we go through August. And so forewarned is forearmed. As now that I know that that's going to happen, I can just chill and watch it and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to make sense of anything yet, you know? Nothing is going to make sense during this process. There's going to be all these doubts and confusions. We're probably going to feel like everything is significantly more abstract and illogical than usual. I mean, I'm a purely collective logical being in my circuitry. So when I look out at the world, from my perspective, it looks weird. Like nothing makes much sense to me anyway. I look out at the world and I'm like, how did all of this get approved without sufficient logical testing? Like, who approved this? Who said go for launch and press the button and let any of this stuff out of the box when it clearly hasn't been fully tested? Because that's the way my circuitry is orientated. However, I am aware of human design that there are abstract circuits and tribal circuits, and maybe the decisions didn't go through a logical testing process. So with all of this, you know, Mercury retrograde taking it through the abstract mental circuit, it may just be more obvious to us that there's all kinds of nonsensical, from a logical perspective, thinking, talking, even perhaps acting going on. But we can remind ourselves, oh yeah, but Venus and the sun, they're over in the logical circuitry. Like we don't have to get completely lost in this abstract confusion. We can actually just keep coming back to this logical process of let me question that, let me look into that, let me make some sense of that at a logical level.
I love that. And I think really the thing that came up for me as you're speaking is it's like it gives us permission, or it gives us a heads up to actually be more open-minded to as we go out and experience the confusion and the craziness, and maybe our ego starts to question people's choices and directions and opinions and all of these things. All of a sudden we can just take a step back and go, oh, hang on a second, you know, that's just this energy. It's the governing thing that's going on. So why don't I just step back and wait for it to make sense or not to make sense, or, you know, just give people a little bit more grace, especially if we are going through this time where there's going to be more energy. So maybe a bit of a microscope on relationships. So it gives us a heads up just to take a step back, and, you know, it might not make sense. So just be open-minded to just take a step back and, you know, be curious, not critical.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the theme for these two retrogrades. Don't worry about the processes of mental confusion and doubt. Lean into this gate 7, organize, gather your people, make a plan, like just focus on that. If you're finding that the mental process is not enjoyable. And, you know, because Mercury is planet of technology and communication, and a lot of our focus is on that collectively as a species, it may be that it's kind of loud, clamoring for our attention, but you know, there are other forces at work behind the scenes, less noisy but like kind of more organized.
Yeah, I love that. Less noisy but kind of more organized. So yeah, lean into that.
I mean, that's like, you know, behind all sort of social justice movements is organize. Just don't stare at the crazy loud people. Just get your people, get your shit together and get organized, make a plan. So that's really what I think is being invited in August.
I love it. I'm in. I'm making a plan.
So that's the personal planets. Jupiter, meanwhile, we're having a little look further out at the giants, the gas giants. Jupiter's moving into gate 2. So Jupiter's been in gate 24 for all of July. It's moving out tomorrow, like I said, 27th of July. and moving into gate 2. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'd be like, I know gate 2, because we've had a lot going on in gate 2. We had Uranus in gate 2 from April 2022 to May this year. It was also there, I think, for a brief period in 21. We've had the North Node in gate 2 in the latter half of 2022. So we had all kinds, we talked about gate 2 a lot. And it was all this kind of the newness, the novelty that Uranus brings, the unusualness, and the future direction that the North Node brings in gate 2, which is the feminine, the receptive, the yin. It's a new directional energy potentially. And so this massive upsurge in attention on the feminine and the yin in our society. I heard Caitlin Moran, actually an author, talking yesterday about how she was like, we've empowered our girls, our girl children. We've given them all these tools. We've taught them to love their bodies. We've, all this stuff. And she was like, what about the boys? We just completely we've just been ignoring the boys. What the hell is wrong with us? And for me, I was like, yeah, all that energy in gate 2, totally focusing on the feminine. And here we go again with Jupiter in gate 2. So it's not necessarily new, but it's more of it, Jupiter bringing in the abundance. So that is one of the things that I think we're going to culturally see. Jupiter's very much about the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It's basically an abundance of, or a peaking of this focus and attention on the feminine and on the yin. In the body graph, I mean, we've already still got 63 defined. 2 is at the other side of the sacral. As you go over the sacral and then into the G. So the fuel, if you've got gate 14 hanging, the fuel that's coming up from the root through 63 is being received in gate 2. So again, still more potential for mutative changes in direction. Like all of a sudden you were tootling along going in this direction in your life, and then bam, everything changes and you're going in a completely different direction. So,
and I think one of the things, I just want to add, like with the 2 and that energy, and what I'm hearing is like, this also is this energy of calling in the resources. So with all the big changes and the shifts that are happening, and maybe some of them do feel left of field. So maybe some of them just, it always makes me think of, you would have absolutely read A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right?
It's literally my favorite book, Emma. I've read it maybe 6 times.
I love it. So the movie version, right?
Yes.
And when he's walking through the field, and it's whenever he says, I think, and he gets slapped in the face with it, with the thing that just appears from nowhere. I always think of it like this, like when we're going through these big times of change, we're just happily like just walking through this big field, and then smack, and then take a few more steps and like smack. And I feel that this is what we're going through right now, on a personal level. And just to hear that there's almost like this governing energy. It's not governing energy. It's a collective energy. It's a bigger energy. But it's like, okay, the resources I need, even though I feel like I'm getting smacked in the face, they're just here. They're just here. They're just here. So I think that the 2 as well is something that, we can feel supported. We can feel we have the resources. And so I love hearing that. I think that's such a beautiful energy to be in the collective as we go through this time of change.
Yeah, I mean, the trick is just let yourself change. Let your life change. Just let it happen. Change is the nature of all things, after all.
Exactly.
Although if you do have an undefined spleen, that might be a bit challenging, because you're kind of conditioned to hold on, not let things go. But I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. The not so. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, in amongst all of this, sounds terribly dull to say it, but just our strategy protects us from the worst of this. If whatever I'm experiencing or feeling like I'm being driven by or tossed around by in the transit soup is, did anyone ask me to do this? Am I being invited to do this? Do I feel recognized here? And just every time I come back to that, I feel this sense of protection, like, no, not really. No one is, no, apparently don't need to do it because nobody's asking me to. So chill.
I love it. And I think it's so important. We always, everything comes back to strategy and authority, you know, like just if we allow it to guide us, we're good. We'll be good. Even though we're going to hit the bumpy bits and our ego is going to go, yeah, really? And the not self is going to show up. You got to trust it. You got to trust yourself.
I want to initiate. Please let me initiate. Nope.
Just once, just this one time.
No one will even notice. We just won't tell anyone. The universe is always watching.
I know. And I reckon there is just a bunch of energies and entities sitting up there having quite the laugh at us all, just trying to bend the universal laws. No, they don't bend. This is the point.
I remember, what's that film? It's got Sylvester Stallone as a cop, is it RoboCop?
Yeah, maybe.
You know, where every time you like make a verbal infraction, you get that, and then you get a ticket automatically. I feel like every time I initiate, the universe goes, gives me a ticket.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I digress. So moving further out, we've got Saturn in 55. We've already had Saturn in 55, but this retrograde is taking it back in. It was first in 55 in March and April of this year, and it's going to stay in 55 now until the end of January next year. So we've got 6 months of Saturn in 55. Now, I know that you, Emma, have 39 hanging. So anyone with 39 hanging is going to have the channel of emoting on for 6 months.
Great. I'm going to be moody. Watch out.
Just FYI. Heads up, everyone.
I love the 55. I love it. But here we go. Yeah. What were those dates again? And for how long was it?
It's coming on the 31st of July and it's on till end of January 2024.
Fuck.
Enjoy.
All right. So, well, I'm going to be paying attention to that mood of mine.
Yeah. So notice your moodiness, especially if you have 39 hanging. In March, when we were talking about this transit, we were talking about Saturn being, you know, the context of science and spirituality and science and boundaries and borders and structures. And then we've got spirituality, abundance coming in with the 55 and how that might play out. We were talking actually about creating structures around your spirituality as one of the things. We might also be looking at how spiritual science is. I watched a documentary last night on Netflix about the launch of the James Webb telescope, the evolution of the Hubble telescope and its deep field pictures of basically the early beginnings of the galaxies. It was looking back at light from 13.1 billion years ago.
Jesus.
And how unbelievably spiritual it is when science is looking that deep into time. So that also felt very Saturn in 55 to me, this like, oh my God. So the keynote for this in the Raving Ching is abundance is strictly a question of spirit.
Yeah.
You know, we've got this, most of us raised in this tremendous lack mentality and this idea that we need to constantly be striving for more because we don't have enough. And then we keep reflecting on abundance being strictly a question of spirit. And there can be that feeling with this channel when it comes on, this incredible sense of lack. You know, it's got this happiness, sadness, hope, pain, and then full empty kind of flavor to it as an energy. You know, they talk about the cup being half full or half empty, and then the true expression of this gate is to just be like, oh my God, there's a cup. And so when I was watching this documentary about like and looking into deep space and the deep past, looking at images where the light was 13 billion years ago, I was just like, oh my God, there's a cup. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I'm here and aware of this and looking at this. This is unbelievable.
Don't you think it's mind-blowing that by the end of our lifetime, we are going to have an awareness of things so far out of planet Earth, like living entities, like all of these things that we've been so conditioned, you know, told over and over and hit over the head. This shit doesn't exist. This shit doesn't exist. Like in our lifetime, our entire, like we talk about the new paradigm. We have no idea Like,
no idea.
By the time we tottle off this mortal coil, you and I are going to sit there with a cup of tea and go, what the fuck? Wow. Like, how is this the same lifetime? Like, that's what's ahead of us in the near future. I totally get it. Like, oh my God, there's a cup. Like, oh my God, there is a living, sentient universe that is out there that is happening right now that we are just learning how to access. But it's all there. It's all already happening. Like, we are late to the freaking party. This stuff
has been there this whole time.
Oh my God. And it blows my mind. I just think, like you said, oh my God, there's a freaking cup. I love that.
There's a little video clip from Professor Brian Cox, who's a British astrophysicist who works at CERN and does a lot of, in the universe, brilliant type kind of TV programs in the
I'm pretty sure I know that he's the dark hair guy. He's grey now. But I love him.
Okay, so there's a clip that's, but maybe we can link it in the show notes, but I've transcribed it because it's pretty short. It's 30 seconds. I'll try and do it shall I try and do it in a Mancunian accent?
Go on, do it.
Okay. What more do you want? When I see people who go, I want more than that, there must be more to it. What do you mean? The ingredients in our bodies were assembled in the hearts of long dead stars over billions of years and have assembled themselves spontaneously into temporary structures that can think and feel and explore. And then those structures will decay away again at some point, and in the very far future, there'll be no structures left. So there we are. We exist in this little window where we can observe this magnificent universe. Why do you want any more?
Oh my God, I love it. And it was only made better by the accent. So well done.
Feel free to go and find Brian on YouTube and then compare my Mancunian accent to his genuine one.
Yeah, do it.
But really, why do we want any more? What the hell is wrong with us? Why can't we see that, look what's happening? Yeah.
And that's it. Why can't we see? Well, that's a really good question. And I can tell you exactly why. It's our brain, it's our conditioning, it's the way that we've been taught to think and not to think specifically. But that's what we're doing here, guys. We're trying to help everyone think differently and see the world differently and create a new quantum reality. Boom. We're on it.
Yeah. I think, we've got such a burden of time. I think time is such a huge burden. The history that we remember and the future that we anticipate. And, I do this little thought experiment sometimes. I think I got it out of a Matt Haig book called The Humans, which I think we've talked about on this podcast years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. But the thought experiment, which I'm going to leave everyone with, is imagine you were going to arrive into a human body as an adult, like now, like not go through babyhood or childhood, you just pop in now to this thing, exactly where you are with exactly what you've got. And you've only got 30 minutes before you're going to pop back out again. So here we are in here. Oh my God. And then you're going to leave in 30 minutes and you can't remember. You've got no history. There's none of this personal idea of memory. There's just you right now in this. Try it for 30 minutes, set a timer and be like, right, this is my only 30 minutes in this body. And just be in it and see what happens. And keep bringing yourself back. Every time a memory from the past arises and you'd be like, hang on a minute, that's impossible. That must be a dream. I wasn't here. And every time you watch your mind drifting into the future and planning, I need to make the tea for tonight. No, you don't. You're going to leave in 30 minutes. What the hell would you know? So I do that sometimes. I sometimes even just do it for 5 minutes. What would 5 minutes be like in here? And how am I relating to everything I'm experiencing? How am I relating to my neck pain? Or how am I relating to the way that my body looks? Or how am I relating to the place that I'm in? Or how am I relating to the people around me? It's if you just imagine that you were going to pop back out of here very, very soon.
Oh my God.
Totally changes it.
Instantly. The first thing, and I think I was overthinking it. The first thing is I just have to find a human and talk to them. But I think actually I would take a step back and, when you said how would I be with my neck pain? I'd be like, no, actually I'd be in total wonder and joy. Oh, what's this? Again, I'm pretty sure there's a scene in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like, oh, this is neck pain. That's what neck pain feels like. Audio. Oh, wow, what's that? That's a drink bottle. Cool. Oh, wow, it's cold. Because you just, the joy, right? It'd just be like childlike curiosity. So, yeah. Or that, like and I mean, how much would I know? Because if I kind of knew a bunch of stuff, that's what I'd want. I'd want human connection. I'd want to be like, I want to talk to someone. I want to hug someone. I want to connect. Like that would be depending on how much information I knew. But otherwise, I think for me, I'd be like joy, just like, oh, wow. Oh, what's that? Oh, what happens when I do that? You know, like a kid poking stuff.
Exactly that. Like I'm sitting here now and I've got this elaborate construction of like 2 velour velvet fabric covered things that I've balanced my computer on so I can get it at head height. And like, I'm just doing it now, like looking at this thing and like, what is this? Why does it feel like this?
Yeah.
So that is what I want to leave everyone with in order to connect to this energy of 55 without it being this cup half full, cup half empty kind of trip. What if it was just, oh my God, there's a cup?
Yeah. I love that. And the only thing I want to add, and I didn't want to add anything because I wanted to leave everyone with a thought experiment, but you know, the thing for me with the 55 really reframed abundance for me. Like it changed my life. I don't have it, you know, I do at the moment, but I don't have it in my body graph, my natal body graph. And the highest expression is freedom. You know, it's the only one in the gene keys that has a gift and acidic state that it's both freedom. And, you know, a lot of what you're talking about with this thought experiment is freedom, because if you only had half an hour, you would be free. So that is what abundance is. That is what spirit is. It's freedom. So for me, that question is going to be really important. Do I feel free? You know, and if I don't, what do I need? What do I need to feel free? Because I think that's going to be a big piece, a really big piece of, you know, I mean, especially if we're going through a huge time of change, then we need to give ourselves permission to be ourselves, authentic, and that is free.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying about what do we need to feel free, my meditation teacher often says to us, you do not need to be healed. It is only your attitude that needs to be healed. And this is what 55 is saying to us. Like, you're already free. Already free.
Yeah. And that's it, right? That's it. That's exactly it. You know, like, what do you need to feel free? Well, I just need to pop in for half an hour. I need to pop in for half an hour, because when I just pop in for half an hour, I realize that all of this stuff that's keeping me unfree, trapped, is bullshit. It's not real. And it's stuff that I can do something about, or there's something I can change, or I can let go of, or I can whatever, you know. And you're right. We're already free. We are the ones that keep ourselves whatever. But anyway, I love that thought experiment. Do the pop in thought experiment. Love it.
That's all.
Well, wow. Thank you. It's so lovely to be back with you. And you know what, Jen, like as you were speaking, can't even remember now. It's all blurred into one, whether you said this before the recording or after. No, it was definitely after I'd hit go. There is definitely a shift in that tone of yours. It is definitely this, it's softer, it's gentler, it's grounded, it's even a little bit slower. So it's that 57 energy is definitely, like, I can feel it. Like having that gap between the last time I spoke to you, there's definitely a significant difference. It's awesome.
Cool, huh? I've changed. You've changed. We've changed. This has changed.
Human.
It's all changed. How wonderful.
Yeah. Being human. Well, now we've done all this important change work, everyone. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here and listening along as we've gone through the transits and shared all our reflections and contemplations and, you know, big questions of the universe. And yeah, it's been great having you here. So thank you so much, Jen, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening and playing along. And I look forward to having you on the next podcast. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone, for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.